Hey everyone, we are live.
Hello.
Good to see all the wonderful design cutters out there already active in the comments. And I'm thrilled to welcome my friend, talented designer Michael from Logo Package Express, or rather, the Logo Package, which is one of my favorite tools and companies right now in the world. So I'm really, really excited for this session. We're going to be getting into everything to do with file types, to do with how to present your work for printers, for clients, and everything in between. And Michael, I know you're a real expert when it comes to this. You have a ton of background in the space. It's why you made the tool. So do you mind kind of sharing a little bit more about what we're going to be seeing today from you?
Yeah, sure. So I have been a professional graphic designer for over a decade. I have a bachelor's of fine art from Western Michigan University. I moved to Chicago and worked for branding agencies and marketing agencies. And in 2018 is when I got into sort of entrepreneurship and product design. And so the product that I've created helps you export logo files. And so what I'd like to do today is give a nice presentation on logo files and which formats you need to send to your clients. And I'd also like to do a demonstration of the software that I created.
Amazing. So for everyone who's tuned in live today, leave a quick comment letting us know what kind of design work do you do? Are you focused on logos? Do you do all kinds of brand design? Do you do some web design in there? Just let us know so we've got a good kind of feeling for who's with us today. But it's always nice to see, Michael, there's such an international bunch. We've got people from the Netherlands, from Switzerland, Canada, Maryland, all over the place. Where are you calling from, Michael?
I'm in Chicago currently, and it just stopped thundering and lightning. So maybe I'll get to go outside today.
Well, I don't want to rub it in. We're getting some rare sunshine here in the UK. It looks glorious out the window.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, knowing our audience, I know we do have a lot of people into logo and brand design for sure. So I think today's session is going to be super, super useful. Hey, Peter from London, what is up? Done a bit of all. Lindy Wise says advertising with Gina, does primarily web design, logos for the dog world, says Cheryl. By the way, Michael, don't worry if comments come in a little bit delayed sometimes. Okay. So I always say to guests, if you make a hilarious remark and it's crickets, give it about 15 seconds and then you'll start getting the laughter in the comments.
Yeah, that's how my life works, so that's fine.
Cool. Well, without further ado, do you want to share your screen and we can jump into the logo design file format presentation?
Sure.
Yeah, we can see people doing all kinds of stuff. We've got business cards, including logos. We've got Andy running a creative agency, all kinds of graphics, branding. So for some of you, you might be familiar already with how to prepare things for print. Other people, this might be a really, really good breakdown of, the right file formats for the right people. So without further ado, over to you, Michael.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so, some of you will be experts at this, but there is certainly a lot of confusion out there around file formats, specifically with logos. What do I need to give my clients? How much is too much? What is not enough? So this presentation is to help really simply clear up some of those issues, because a lot of the file format explanations get really bogged down in details like lossless compression and all of those sorts of things. So just want to give a very high level overview. So you may find that your clients are asking for strange file formats, or they're asking for these sort of really bespoke one-off logo file requests. Can you send me an RGB EPS? Can you send me a vector file for my printer? Speaking of printers, vendors, who are people like printers or embroiderers, sometimes they use old technologies. And so, your client or your vendor will reach out to you asking you for a file format specific to that sort of old technology. And you are probably wondering at those points, do I need to add all these files to my packages? Is it really important to have every single file format? Well, I can tell you from experience that the moment that you decide to cut one of these files from your logo package is the moment that you will be in a deep flow on a new project, and you'll get that email from a client asking you to include it.
It's so disruptive, right? When that happens.
Yeah. It's
I've been in
ready
both
to work.
shoes. I've been the client as well, where I'm like, actually, do you mind sending me this super specific thing which I didn't foresee that I'd need?
Right. I mean, a lot of people, they want to get away with just sending a PDF or something like that. But really, the more files you can send and cover your bases, the better. So with that being said, what are the logo file formats that your clients need? Well, this comes down to 4 very simple questions. Who is going to be using these files? What are they going to be using the files for? Where? What context are these logo files living in? Are they meant to be printed, or are they meant to be on the web? Both. And lastly, why? Why are these file formats the best format for the job? So, first question, who for? Who are we going to be sending these logo files to? I mean, this could be different from client to client, but if you're always going to be sending your logo files to a client, but the types of formats that they're going to need are usually things that are very involved around their day-to-day business operations. And they're using things like Microsoft Word and PowerPoint, and they're making email signatures. They're not so much concerned with some of the more complicated things that we as designers do. So good file formats for them are PDFs, PNGs, JPEGs. These are the types of files that they're going to be using more often than not. Designers, on the other hand, they're doing more sophisticated things with the logos. They need to be creating materials and collateral. So they're going to need editable files, scalable files. So if you're handing off logos to other designers, PDFs and native design files like an Illustrator file are very beneficial for them. A developer is working exclusively on websites or digital materials. So the file formats that they're going to be using most are things like JPEGs, PNGs, and SVGs. And I'm going to cover these formats sort of individually a little bit, but SVG, some people may not know, it's a newer file format. It's a scalable vector graphic for the web, which allows you to have crisp.
SVGs are great. I've actually been working with our team of developers this week, updating some of the SVGs across our website. So, they're very much the future, aren't they?
I actually noticed that you had one in your footer because I needed to grab your logo the other day. So
nice.
Good work. And then vendors, again, these are people like printers, embroiderers, sign shops, those sorts of things. They're going to either need a really general file like a PDF, or sometimes they will ask for EPSs for some of those older systems. So next up is what for? What are these people actually using these logos for? So your client, as I said, they're doing the sort of day-to-day business management sort of stuff. They're uploading social media images. They're making a digital letterhead or something like that in Microsoft Word, and they need the logo. They're definitely making PowerPoint presentations. Clients, it's like crack for them, PowerPoints. They're going to need the logos for that. Their sales decks are all in PowerPoint. And then things like email signatures. Every client kind of wants to throw their logo in their email. And again, the file formats that are going to work really well for those use cases are PDF, PNG, and JPEG. Designers, as I said before, they're doing things that are more sophisticated, right? They've got a whole variety of different sort of collateral and materials they need to make, everything from web design through to marketing materials that are going to live both in print and the web. They could be doing motion graphics, animation, and things like brochures or annual reports that need to be printed. So the file formats that are going to work really well for them are editable files like PDF and Adobe Illustrator. And then the developer, they're making websites or they're making apps. They're doing that sort of development. They could be doing custom emails for marketing efforts, right? Like you send out a very customized email. It needs to be developed by a developer. Landing pages for marketing campaigns, things like blogs as well. So again, those digital file formats, I mean, I guess they're all digital, but web file formats like SVG, PNG, and JPEG. And then your vendors, they're making things like business cards, those nice stationery systems that you create for all of your identity projects. They could be doing swag like t-shirts or hats, embroidery, event graphics, anything from a huge banner stand. Well, it doesn't have to be huge, but a banner stand to one of those big walls or tablecloths, vehicle wraps. And if anybody still uses mail, direct mail pieces are also projects that your vendors are going to need these files for. And that again is PDF and EPS. So what is the environment that these logo files work best in? So if you're dealing primarily with print, the thing about print is it's a special color gamut. You either need to provide CMYK colors or you need to provide Pantone colors, and certain file formats can contain that information and certain file formats won't contain that information. So Illustrator files, PDFs, and EPS, they can all be saved to contain those print color gamuts. In addition to that, print is extremely variable from a size perspective. So files that allow for scalability, big billboard or small business card, those things are going to do really well in the print environment. And that would be Adobe Illustrator files, PDF, and EPS. Mm-hmm. Digital or the web, these files need to hold RGB color gamut information. That's the color gamut that the web uses to create all the colors that you see on your screen. So PNGs and SVGs, they can actually only contain like RGB or hexadecimal values. They cannot contain CMYK mixes or Pantone colors. So they're best used for digital. And then a JPEG can contain CMYK information, but since it's not really a scalable file, it doesn't work as well for print. And the other primary difference we're talking about here is sort of vector versus pixel-based. And a vector file is basically just a mathematical equation that the software interprets. So it can interpret that and draw it at any size because it's just executing sort of math, right? But a pixel-based format like a PNG or a JPEG, it works really well on the web because the web is composed of pixels and so are these files, but they're not so scalable because there's a finite number of pixels. It's essentially a grid of pixels. And if you want to scale up or scale down that image, the software or the browser has to say, okay, well, there were this many pixels, but now there's less pixels, or now there's more pixels, and it just has to make up what it thinks is the right pixel for the job. And that's how you get these really blurry images when you scale up and down pixel-based images. So again, the two sort of contexts that these files are going to live in, are they meant to be printed or primarily meant for a digital environment? And then lastly, why? Why are these file formats the best file formats for any particular job? So the first thing to consider is, what are scalable file formats? And scalable, again, these are going to be vectors, and you can print them at any size and they won't lose their resolution. The files that can contain vector information are PDF, Adobe Illustrator, SVG, and EPS. And of course,
Michael, we just got a great comment from Pam. He said, I sometimes need a logo for a huge banner from a sponsor and they send me a tiny PNG. It happens so often.
Yes, yes, it does. And I mean, I think that it's tough because you want to just do like an image trace or something and then scale it up. But oftentimes it just ends up meaning you've got to go back to the client and ask them for a vector and postpone the thing for another week. So it's definitely very frustrating.
So much wasted time. And as well, I think a lot of people don't realize about the vector capabilities of PDF. I know for a lot of years,
Right.
I only thought about AI and EPS as your kind of go-to vectors, but we've had a lot of logo files and some things like that provided in PDF format, and it's worked fine.
Yeah, well, PDF is certainly, and I think this will come up in this slide. PDF is certainly good for opening up and viewing your logo file, but it isn't something that you can put on the web and have people just look at. It's not like a PNG. So that's the only limitation of it. But yeah, as being able to store vector and even Pantone and CMYK, PDFs are great. Mm-hmm. So those are the scalable file formats. Now, editable, you'll see it's the exact same list of files. And this is because vector files are usually something that you can open up in a piece of design software and really get under the hood. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, I don't want people to edit my logo files, but there's a lot of legitimate use cases where you would want to open up and edit. Maybe you just want to take the symbol out for some reason, and all you've got is, the full logo. Sometimes special promotions, you do change the logo. So having an editable file format is really valuable for designers, especially. And those
the comments are definitely supporting that. You're definitely hitting on some pain points here. Okay. People are airing many frustrations in the comments right now. Dan just said, I often get the remark, can't you just recreate it in 10 minutes? Of course I can.
Oh my God.
And also realign the moon, he says.
Yes. Yeah. Make it out of cheese. It's certainly frustrating. Nothing's worse, outside of logo design, when you get a nice little JPEG ad that somebody made and they want you to change the text, right? That's also awful.
Or the worst, like you've been the designer and then the client takes what you've done and runs with it or uses the wrong file format or hands it off to someone else, and your beautiful work gets destroyed or pixelated. Or I've even had logos stretched before that I created, and it's like, that reflects so badly on my work.
Yeah. Well, I know we all make those style guides, or at least you should, that say what to do and what not to do. But I think ultimately, if you've been paid for your work, there's only so much control you can exercise over it. But it is still certainly frustrating to see that. I made a logo for my girlfriend's father, who's a competition barbecue cook in Texas. And I sent them this really great font choice that I had picked out. And ultimately they made me change it to some default Microsoft Word crazy font that you see on every
like word art.
Not quite word art, but just like not a great font. So the frustrations are real.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, Pam says, you didn't realize this was going to become a therapy session for designers, did you? And Liz is talking about making her clients watch this webinar.
Hey, yeah, they could definitely use it.
Yeah,
for sure. All right. So those are the editable file formats, and we've gone over use cases now of why you would want those. Universal. What this means is that anybody can open up the file and preview it, right? So if you send a bunch of files to your client and they don't have, say, Adobe Illustrator, they're not even going to get a thumbnail to look at. They have no idea what is in there. So if these logos need to be either displayed on a website or they need to be shared and shown, every browser, every computer has a PDF reader built into it, and every computer or device is going to be able to open up a PNG and a JPEG. And since I'm sure people are commenting, I know that there's a particular problem with PNGs, especially with people on PC computers, where you send a reverse or a white logo.
Oh, yeah. And you can't see it in the preview.
Right. They can't see it. So that's a problem, but it is still a file type that can be opened by pretty much anybody. And then the last area here is transparency. And this is important because most of the time the logo doesn't just live in isolation. It's got to be, on a color, or it's got to be over an image. There's lots of use cases where you don't want a white rectangle behind your logo. And instead of reading off the list of what's there, it's actually, I think, easier to just point out what isn't in this column, which is JPEG. So of all these file formats, they can all have backgrounds on them, but JPEG is the only one that has to have a background. So it doesn't matter what color, but it usually defaults to white. And what that means is the negative space around your logo is going to be filled in with a background, and it won't be able to be seen through. So all of these file formats, PDF, EPS, SVG, Illustrator, PNG, they can all be saved so that you can only see the logo artwork, and then everything else will show through.
We've got apps in the comments pointing out that PDF seems to be the popular one.
PDF, yeah. I mean, I think the fact that it's under that universal there, it certainly is a powerhouse. The only thing it can't do, like I said before, is just be a display file. You always have to like post a link to the PDF and then open up the PDF somehow. You can't just show what it looks like. Not typically anyway. So those are sort of my 4 categories for the uses of these files. Now, after we've talked about all this, it seems like there's a lot of file formats. There's a lot of people who need to use these files, and you may need to provide more files in your logo packages than you thought. So that is where my product comes in, which is an extension for Adobe Illustrator. I think I saw somebody comment before we started about if this was for CS6, and I have to say it is only for CC 2018 and above, Creative Cloud 2018 and newer. And that is because Illustrator itself had some bugs that wouldn't really allow the extension to work properly on those older versions. So unfortunately, it's not available. I do have some free templates and stuff like that help with CS6, but the full extension is not available unless it's 2018 and higher. But anyway,
Michael, just before we jump in with this, I actually asked Michael to come on, not, just to explain the file formats, but this is actually one of the greatest tools I've ever seen. And for all our regulars, you'll know I don't often say that, or basically never say that on this Hangout session. It is so cool. Epps just said I actually already have it. It's amazing and fast. So for anyone who's not familiar, this is the tool where I keep telling my friends to get it. And actually many of my top logo designer friends, including Made by James, if you're familiar, Michael.
I just saw his Instagram.
Yeah, incredible logo designer. He just did my personal brand logo.
Wow.
And so I was the client, and I was saying, hey, my designer needs all these different file formats. You might want to check out Michael's tool. And he went, yeah, already got it. I've been using it, using it for months.
Excellent.
Like, okay. And I hear that more and more. So many of my friends use it. And we don't often share stuff that's kind of outside the Design Cuts universe in these sessions, but this is so good that I had to get Michael on. So without further ado, Michael, feel free to share it.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. So, in case you had forgotten, the manual process is really hard. You've got to open up Illustrator. You've got to make a bunch of art boards, duplicate your logo file a bunch of times, change all the colors, set all the different export sizes. The list goes on and on and on. And then you have to name all these files manually. And the whole process can take, an hour or more if you're providing a robust logo package with all the file formats that we talked about in this presentation. So Logo Package Express, like I said, it's an extension for Adobe Illustrator, and it automates this entire process for you. So I'd like to show you guys a demonstration of it, a quick walkthrough, and you can see how it works. And then I think we're going to take questions as well. Yeah,
for sure.
Okay, awesome.
You're getting some love in the comments, by the way, Michael. I know you can't see them right now, but there's a few people that already have the tool, and they're saying whenever they've dealt with you by email, it's not like some big software company. You've been super helpful and responsive, so they definitely appreciate that.
Awesome. Yeah, I love making custom tutorials for people because, you open up Loom and it takes 5 minutes to record something instead of doing 5,000 emails back and forth. So I'm happy that they've joined up with us and are checking it out. Okay, so here is a demo of Logo Package Express. So if you've downloaded and installed Logo Package Express, the way that you kind of open it and look at it is by going to Window, Extensions, and then you can choose Logo Package Express from the dropdown. And this is the window. It'll open up, panel, I guess. And this is how we use it. So you're going to want to first open up a final artwork file, and this might look different for different people. You might have a bunch of different versions and all that, but it should be the final artwork with the final colors that you are satisfied with. You simply make a selection of it, and then you come to the extension and you press Set Logo. And what this is going to do is it will make a new document that copies over your logo exactly as it was from the previous document, but you don't have to worry about your final file being edited or changed in any way. So in this new working document, we're going to copy over the swatches. We're going to keep the document color mode the same as it was in your final file, and you'll be ready to start working on it. So the panel now has a few windows in it for setting what I call components, different components of the logo. I call this sort of thing the logo mark. Some people might call it a symbol or an icon, but you can set all of these different components inside of the extension. So I'm going to do that now. I just go ahead and set them, and you get a nice preview. And if you make a mistake, let's say I forgot the R in EcoPower here, the tagline, all you have to do is click the trash can button and you can reset that component.
Nice.
And if you have a white element or something that's really light, you can also change the thumbnail background to dark so you can make sure that you've selected everything correctly.
As you show these little touches, Michael, I feel like they've come from lots of hours of trial and error and user feedback, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I definitely had to get a good group of beta testers before I launched the extension, but there was a lot of research up front. And of course, I've worked for agencies. I was kind of the person that got past the grunt work of making the logo packages, and I knew a lot of what some of the problems were coming into this. So before I show you the real magic here, there are some settings as well that you might want to take a look at. There's Pantone Conversion. So one of the things that Logo Package Express does is it automatically picks a really great Pantone match for you. And you'll see that demonstrated. But if you already have brand standards or something like that, and you've already picked out swatches, you can just change this to manual mode and manually recolor the logos with the swatches that you have pre-selected. There's some settings that deal with a very specific color scheme, which I can show you later. And then there's file formats and there's print file formats and web file formats. So these are all the things we talked about in the presentation. And you can choose which ones you want, which ones you don't want. In this case, EPS is unselected simply because it is a slower file type to save out, but you can also export your EPSs. And then you can set a width and a resolution for your JPEGs and PNGs. So I've got it set to 72 PPI, which is the web. And let's say I want a 1200 wide JPEG and PNG. I can set that right there. Okay, so now comes the cool part. Since this is CMYK, I'm going to want to make print logos first, but if it came in as RGB, I'd make web logos first. But here is the logo generation process. So you can see I just click Make Print Logos, and it zooms through all of the different color variations, all of the different component combinations you could want, and makes them in basically a second. So
smart.
The way that these are laid out is that there are columns of components, right? So you've got just the mark in isolation. This can be important if the client's making a favicon, or they need to make a an app icon or something like that.
It could be so many things. Like I mentioned, right. James Martin just did my personal logo. I'm getting my logo mark icon and putting it on a baseball cap.
Okay, yeah.
Having that in isolation is so useful.
Yeah. So it breaks them out and then recombines them in all of the combinations you could need. And then if you don't want some of these logo variations, all you have to do is delete the artwork and they won't be exported. So for example, this tagline down here, which I'll zoom in on, it's green. It's exactly the same as the full color logo, but it needs to be green in the inverted versions here, which are some white and some color. But I don't need it. So I'm going to get rid of that one. And I don't need these two either, because they're represented elsewhere. So when I delete them, they won't be exported.
You know, when you hit the button and it just churned out all these logos, the comments just blew up with everyone being like, damn, that's amazing.
Nice. Yeah. I'll hit it again. Boom. There it goes.
That takes like a second. And I know you're going to break down in today's session how long it would normally take, but I remember doing this as a designer and manually being like, go to grayscale, export it as it. Like, not only does it take like an hour or more, but it's the most mind-numbing work on the face of the earth. So
yeah, it's very boring. I mean, if you can say one good thing about it, it is nice to not have to think for a while. But if you're not thinking at all, then you've got to redo the thing. So
it is incredible. And I know you're going to kind of explain more how to export and stuff. But I will say, for anyone in the comments being like, damn, I need this now, the shiny green button, as always, below this live stream is where you can get it. And it's worth mentioning that Michael organized a 20% discount just for the Design Cuts community, which is super generous. This tool, like you can tell I'm pretty excited about it. When I first saw this, that was my reaction, where I was like, oh my God, I wish I'd had this as a designer. And I don't see this as like a nice to have. I can see, every designer using this, because it would just be dumb not to. It saves hours on every single project.
Yeah, it will pay for itself. Assuming you're pricing your work, it will appropriately. It will pay for itself in one go. But some other little details here are, if you don't like our grayscale conversion, any edits that you make to these files will be preserved for your export. So if you need to come in and do some fine tuning and change the value of the gray or something like that, you can totally do that too. But I wanted to show the Pantone conversion. So these, the bottom two rows, when you generate print logos, is the automated Pantone conversion. And as you can see over in our swatch panel, we've got some Pantone colors here. And I'm just going to compare this to the original CMYK artwork at the top. Whoops. So you can see how close of a match we provide. And if I zoom in on this here, you can see that this is a very, very close match for Pantone. And you can spend, so just as long as it takes to export all these logos, you can spend that long digging through your swatch books trying to find the right swatch. Now, I will never say that, some program is going to be better than a designer's eye, but we have very, very good outcomes from this. And if you don't have swatch books, or, your client doesn't use Pantone very often, this is definitely a very reliable way to get your Pantone colors as well.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, then there's all just the different color variations: black, white, grayscale, Pantone. And then there's this inverted version, which is what the inversion settings are for. And that just allows you to kind of pick and choose what things are going to be color and what aren't. Okay. So now that we've generated all the logos and we've deleted the ones we don't want, now what we do is we just click export. And that's going to give you the option to put in your client name, or a lot of times people use a prefix here, and then browse for a directory to save this into. I've already gotten one chosen. And then you just hit create logo package. And as you can see, it is automatically creating a logo file folder system. It's automatically naming all of these files with a good naming convention. And it's sorting them into like easy to use folder structure that your clients will be able to understand. And this is all happening in seconds, basically.
I love it so much. Again, in the comments, everyone's like, boom. Tracy says, I so wish I would have had this 2 weeks ago. I'm ordering it now.
That's amazing.
That was the moment I had where I just went, I can't believe I didn't know this existed. And Michael, I know you built this yourself. As people in the comments said, you're not some big software company. You just had an ingenious idea, but it's really caught fire. Like I say, every designer we work with, every renowned logo designer, Ian Paget, Logo Geek, we've had him on before. They're all using it. The future's using it. And, I think tens of thousands of people are now using this tool. So how does that feel? creating something that's, the cumulative hours that it must have saved is just nuts.
Yeah. I would love to have stats on that, but I don't want to be Big Brother watching everybody's making their logo packages unknown to them. But yeah, it started off as an alpha version with just scripts and actions and a lot of the solutions that, a lot of your audience may already have attempted to try and automate this process a little bit. And that started selling, but I didn't have a large audience. So once I started connecting with people like Ian, like you mentioned, or Jacob Cass from Just Creative and yourself, then I was able to reach a lot more people. And it was really validating to see that once it got in front of people, they could see the value of it. And I realized that I was helping out a lot of people. And it's definitely a great feeling. And I definitely have plans to expand on this. I have a version 2 coming out in the next couple of months that's underway with some new features. So it's taken over my professional life. I don't have clients anymore. I just do this exclusively, which is why I can, respond to all those emails that come in and that sort of thing. So
nice. I mean, it's one of those, I don't know, single logo designer that has seen this and been like, nah, not for me. Like without fail, they're like, okay, that's to save me X number of hours per month.
Right.
Yeah, Emerald says I saw it on Instagram. Now my whole team has it. I'm nice. Seriously excited for you, Michael. Like, I hope you don't mind me briefly sharing some of the earlier chats we had.
Sure.
About this, yeah. But I actually, when I saw this, I approached Michael to potentially, try and be part of this in some way. That's how excited I was. It transpired like Design Cuts has been so busy. We literally didn't have the time or resource in the end, but I wanted to kind of support you from the sidelines because I just think it's awesome.
Yeah, I remember that first call. It was very exciting to see that somebody had that level of interest. So thank you. And thanks for having me on today as well.
Of course.
So I'm going to...
Do you mind if we quickly share a couple of the saved out versions? So, like a black and white logo mark and that kind of thing, just so people can kind of see what's being exported.
Yeah, sorry. So of course I can always just do like a preview of the file and you can see, but let's go to, like you said, logo mark, grayscale. If I can open up the PDF, it'll be, the same size as with a PDF, it can be whatever, but this was the size from my artwork. So that's the size that it exports at. And if you want to change the size of your vector files, all you do is change the size of your final logo artwork. Cool. So that's a PDF. I think another thing that people would be really valuable to see is, let me go to the logo and open up a Pantone coded PDF. Okay. So if I open up the Pantone coded and I go in Acrobat, I go to output preview. Sorry, I got to find that real quick here. Print production, sorry. When you open up the output preview, this is going to show you what the colors are, and you can see we have the Pantone colors. So it definitely is exporting high quality production files as well.
Amazing. I mean, internally, I need this kind of stuff all the time. Like the number of times we get asked for our logo or an icon, whatever it might be, in all kinds of random formats, or, if I'm a guest on a podcast or something, or we're doing a collaboration. So it isn't just client work, there's so many times and it's so regular. And, I think having something like this either downloadable on your website or a Dropbox link or something like that, so you don't have to keep remembering where the link is. You can just have some kind of saved link where you're like, here you go, every single time, and they can go access what they need.
Yeah, I don't want to give away too much, but I'm working on those sorts of ideas as well around logo package delivery. But
awesome.
That'll have to wait.
There you go, Michael. Great minds.
So once you've exported your print logos, if you're trying to make a complete logo package with web files as well, then you just go ahead and make web files. And now we have converted the colors all over to RGB. You can see the document color mode has switched to RGB. And this is basically the same grid, except that it doesn't have Pantone colors because you don't need Pantone for the web. So again, I will just select the the sort of duplicate versions that I don't really need. And then I will come back to the extension and do export web logos. I don't have to change anything here. And now you'll start to see a digital folder coming in as well as the print folder. So I think there's, it'll pop up here in a second. Yeah, there's a digital folder there, digital folder up here. And it goes through and it exports, the SVGs, JPEGs, PNGs. And one thing that a lot of people are really concerned about, and I was concerned with as well, is that when you have a logo file, especially in Illustrator or any artwork that has rounded edges, it can get cropped into. You see how this is really tight to the artwork? A lot of people are concerned about that, but I'll open up this PNG and you can see there's no cropping on the round edges. It's really nice and crisp. So we tried to fix that problem with Illustrator's sort of native export features. Very and cool. What else? But if you, okay. So that handles that issue. So now all of the digital files are exported, and as much as I'd like to show you more, I think that's what it does. Your package is done now. You can just zip up these this folder and send it off to your client. You can do that Dropbox link that Tom was talking about, and I'm happy if people have questions. I'm happy to get into the nitty-gritty details of the setting.
We do. Absolutely. We got some that have come in, and, first of all, bravo, great demonstration, incredible product. I just love that there's people out there that are this ingenious, because you would think, we're huge fans of Adobe and their products, but for how gigantic they are, the fact they have never built anything like this, and you as an individual just kind of thought it up and executed it. I think that's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I think that they're happy to have people make extensions and stuff because it just makes their product more valuable. But I think if ideas are good enough, potentially they try to implement those types of things. But I'm not too worried. I'm hopeful that this is niche enough that I'll continue to be the one who gives the solution.
I think so. Cool. So we got a bunch of questions. The first one is from Epps. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. Saying a big concern is whether the conversion from CMYK to Pantone is, hold on, it just moved down, is close or accurate. I have the package already, but I never understood how the plugin determines the best match, especially with blues, which can always be difficult when printing as they contain a lot of metals like cobalt for some of the royal blues. How does the plugin best determine this? Is that kind of what you covered already, Michael, with the, how close it is?
Yeah, I can talk more about that. So if I generate those print logos again, basically what we do is we have our own algorithm for determining this. And it basically breaks any color, whether it's RGB or CMYK, down to its lab mix, and then we compare mathematically the lab mix of a CMYK or RGB color to the lab mix of a Pantone color. And then we have certain optimizations, I think specifically for blues and reds and things where they're kind of wonky, to try and optimize for that. I couldn't tell you exactly what the code for our algorithm is, but essentially the point is, if you don't like the match, you can still do a manual conversion where you open up your own swatches, pick them, and then just change the artwork down here and export. It's going to add another, minute to your process, but it's still so much faster than the manual way. So you can deal with your Pantone colors that way if we don't provide an excellent match. You can always do the eyeball test like I did earlier, where you just compare the Pantone match to the CMYK up there. And then lastly, this is something that's important. We generate global swatches. So if you have a very specific RGB or CMYK mix or something like that, you can just open up these swatches and you can change the color once and it'll change it all over. So just as an example, if I totally modify this to like something completely different, you'll see that updated everywhere that color is here.
Well, are you, I don't think you're sharing your screen.
Oh, I'm not?
No. No, we did stop after the demo, I'm afraid.
Oh, okay. No problem.
Are you able just to reshare super quick?
Yeah, I'll reshare how that worked.
Perfect.
Sharing. Are we back?
We are back. Let's just focus on that team. There we go.
Okay. So basically what I was demonstrating was I talked about how we do the algorithm, but then I did another comparison of taking our Pantone logo down here and dropping it next to the CMYK, and you can just kind of do a visual comparison. I know obviously when you actually print the files, things can be different, but it's a fairly reliable process. And then also I was saying that we generate global swatches. So if I come into a swatch and I change it to something completely different, then you'll see that everywhere that green was before has now updated. So it's a really quick way to, if you're not satisfied with our conversion and you have like a custom color that you absolutely need to match, then yeah, go ahead and just update those global swatches in no time. You'll have exactly what you need.
I love that. So, there's definitely the scope for customization. And as you said, Michael, it might be an extra minute, but you're still saving hours.
Right.
Landon asks, are there plans to create Logo Package Express for the Affinity suite? And we know we do have a lot of Affinity users. I see a wry smile there. Is this on the roadmap?
Well, Affinity designers, I love you all. I have Affinity myself. What Affinity does not have is the ability to make plugins, do macros or actions, or support scripting in any way. So I would love it if you guys could be like my watchers, and the moment you see some news come from Affinity that they're supporting scripting or plugins or anything like that, let me know. Because Affinity Designer specifically, which is the tool I'd want to use to replicate this functionality, does not support those things. I know that their photo tool does support scripting or plugins, but the sort of vector graphic program does not. So unfortunately, I can't do anything about that until they update their product.
Well, I went to a party at their office last year, so I'll try and put in a good word, Michael.
Okay, excellent. Excellent.
Okay, great question from Hannah, who says, I like to deliver the logos, including some white space. The clients will never place it too close to anything else. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, so there's a workaround for version 1 where I'm not going to demonstrate it because it takes a second, but basically you just put an invisible rectangle around the artwork and then that gets preserved. But I have tutorials on how to do that. I guess since you guys are forcing my hand, one of the new features that's coming to version 2 is the ability to add padding. And yeah, you can specify any padding you want, but that'll be an upgrade, and that'll be the next version. So if you want the current version, there are definitely workarounds, and I have tutorials. So, check out the YouTube channel for the logo package and you'll be able to find that information.
Perfect. And I presume it's very much worth people getting version 1 now, despite the upgrade coming.
Yeah, my plan is that it's either going to be totally free for existing customers or a very, very minimal upgrade fee, but I tend more towards free. So
awesome. I didn't want to put you on the spot with that, but that's great to hear.
Cool.
Well, that answers the next question, which was exactly that from Kat and
Sure.
Al. So we got a few people wondering about that. So again, just before I get into more, Gabriella says, loving Tom's pineapple water bottle. Thank you very much.
Oh yeah, that was exquisite.
I try. But apparently she loves the software even more because it's mind-blowing. So I think you win this one, Michael.
Awesome.
So Tracy says, are you able to load a single license to multiple machines so that she can get it on her iMac and laptop for mobile presentations?
Great question. So when you make a purchase of Logo Package Express, you are issued a license, and that license is good for 2 uses. Thankfully, the files that you're going to download to install in Illustrator are exactly the same whether you have a Mac or a PC. So you can use those 2 uses however you want. You can do a home computer and a work computer. You can do a Mac and a PC. The only thing that I don't have the capability to do is to, like Adobe with their massive budget, to turn off your license one place and activate it in another place. So once you've used both usages of your license, if something catastrophic happens, like, you know, your laptop got ran over by a horse or something like that, you can reach out to me. You can reach out to me and I'll send you another license. But it's one license is good for 2 uses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, keep an eye out for those destructive horses as well, people.
Yes,
they're deadly.
They're rampaging now that no one's on the streets.
Yeah, they've taken over. I can see some just down there in the street, actually, below my window. So Kat asks about changing from a Mac to a PC. I think you've just covered that, really. You know, you've got the 2 licenses, and if you do run out or your Mac breaks down and you get a PC, I mean, first of all, you wouldn't move from a Mac to a PC, people. Once you go Mac, you never go back, as they say. Right. But yeah, I think Michael covered that one. Andy says, how about the handling of metallic Pantones? Is that kind of what we covered before with some of those blues? And
yeah, to get specific on that, we're not searching that library of Pantone colors. We're not searching the metallic library. So if you need a very custom one, again, you just come up to, are we still sharing my screen?
We are, and the team can focus on it, yeah.
Okay, yeah. You would just go up to settings and then change Pantone Conversion from automatic to manual. And then you would go ahead and manually apply those metallic swatches, but the files are still going to export in whatever way that you've changed them. So that's how you would handle your metallic Pantone colors.
Perfect. Thanks so much. We have an off-topic question.
Okay.
Bear with me here. Yeah, someone was asking about the Blue Yeti, because apparently my sound is a lot better than theirs. My fix was turning the gain right down. Did you have a similar thing, Michael?
Well, I have a Blue Yeti at the recommendation of Ben from the future, but the gain is right in the middle for me. So if I sound like a pterodactyl or something, let me know. I'll turn it down.
No, you sound fine. I think they can be a bit temperamental. I watched a bunch of YouTube videos. Was the answer, to be honest, but they seem to have a mind of their own. They're different for everyone.
I see.
I actually think that was all the questions that came in today, glancing through them.
Okay.
But let's give it up for Michael, because that was such a fantastic demonstration. Everyone is loving the software. And just a reminder again, if you do want to grab Logo Package Express, and I highly recommend you do if you care about saving money and time in your design work, then you can do so below with the link our team are about to put in the chat, or the shiny green button, as always. And it's 20% off, which is a special offer for the Design Cuts community. So you can get it cheaper than anywhere else right now, people. Shirley says, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, super informative, Michael. And again, I remain a huge fanboy of what you're building here. And
thank you.
People who watch the show know I do not evangelize like this, hardly ever, really, with, stuff outside the Design Cuts universe. We've got a very high bar of quality with what we do. But this was definitely something that caught my eye, and I've just been a huge fan ever since we first chatted. So I'm, just super humbled that you came on and joined us today.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to share some knowledge about logo files and show off my product. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Final quick question. Kat says, how long will the discount be available? That is a good question.
That is going to be up to the Design Cuts folks and how long they want to run their promotion, I would imagine.
Okay. Well, to be discussed. I'll talk to Michael about that one. But yeah, suffice to say, if you're waiting for like the paycheck at the end of the month, I'm sure it's going to be active around the end of May. Because, we really want our community to benefit from this. Like I say, every single logo designer friend of mine is using this to save time. And so that's why I was excited to share it with everyone today. Michael, thank you again. Everyone who's joined us, you guys are fantastic. I will see you next Thursday for another community hangout. And we also have our next gigantic monthly event lined up for June. This is going to be a big one, people. Look out for that. I'll catch everyone next week. And Michael, I'll chat to you soon.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye.